Hare Krishna. So tonight's topic is Japa. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yajnanam Japo Yajñosmi, that of all sacrifices or yajnas, I am Japa. Japa is the practice of chanting the holy name of the Lord, mainly for one's own self to hear. There are two methods of chanting. One is japa and the other is kirtan. We are in the present age of Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga it is recommended Harinama, Harinama, Hariname Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. One should chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant the holy name of Hari Krishna. There is no other way, no other way, no other way for success in the present age. This repetition, Harinama, 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 is for emphasis. You must chant, you must chant, you must chant. And the repetition of there's no other way, no other way, no other way, means not by meditation, which was possible or recommended in Sattva Yuga, not by performance of Vedic sacrifices, which was recommended in Treta Yuga, and not by elaborate temple worship, which was recommended in Dwapara Yuga. But in Kali Yuga, Harinam is the only way. Now there are many statements in the scripture that describe the benefit of chanting the holy name. In fact, it is stated in Shastra that by once chanting the holy name of Krishna, one becomes freed from the effects of more sins than one is able to commit. Now this is an authorized statement of the revealed scriptures, and it is true. But it also depends on the quality of the chanting. In her prayers to Lord Krishna, Queen Kunti says that those who are on the path of material progress, trying to improve their material condition in different ways, they cannot approach Krishna with full feeling. Krishna can be approached by one who is a kinchana gochara, one who is without material possessions. Now, the idea of being without material possessions might seem a little difficult to apply. Not only difficult to apply, it might seem like something we wouldn't want to do. But this word akinchana, without material possessions, can mean without material possessions or without a sense of false proprietorship. Here in the temple, we have everything that other people have and more. We have a big building, we have a sound system, we have computers, we have cars and vans, we have a big kitchen, we have so many material things, or what one could call our material things. But they are not an impediment to our realization of God or Krishna, as long as we do not consider them to be ours. And the same principle can apply to you at home. You may have many of the same things that we have here. And there's no harm as long as you don't have the sense of false proprietorship, that, you're the Lord of all you survey. Aham mameti, I, me, and mine. I am this body. This is my house. This is my wife. These are my children. This is my car. This is my business. I, me, and mine. Concept, I am this body, and everything related to this body is mine. As long as we're free from that false conception, we can approach Krishna with feeling, and we can attain the shelter of Krishna. And we do need shelter. Everyone in this world needs shelter. The material world is a hard struggle for existence. As spirit souls, we are by nature Sat, or eternal. Sat means eternal. It also means truth, or real. The Bhagavad Gita says that which is eternal is real, and that which is temporary is unreal. So the soul, our actual identity, is eternal. But the body is temporary, and everything else in the material world is also temporary. So we are in an extremely difficult situation because we're eternal. We want to live eternally, and by nature we are eternal. But the body that we're in, the car we drive, the house we occupy, are all temporary. And the bodies that are so dear to us, beginning with our own body, but extended to the body of our spouses and children and parents and siblings, they're also temporary. They're bound to perish. So we want to live eternally, but we are placed at present in an atmosphere that is not eternal. And we're always struggling to maintain our existence here. Satchidananda. We want to live eternally, we want knowledge, and ultimately we want bliss. So we're struggling to exist in the atmosphere of non-existence. We're struggling to be happy. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, God or Krishna. And the Supreme Soul is blissful. The Vedanta Sutra says, Anandamaya Vyasat. The Supreme Soul is by nature full of bliss. And because we are His part and parcel, we also want to be blissful. By nature we are blissful, but our original nature is covered by this material body. Material body is the opposite. We are by nature Sat Chit Ananda, and the body is by nature Asat, temporary, Achit, full of ignorance, and Nir Ananda, miserable. So we're struggling. It's a losing battle. Ultimately, we will perish. Srila Prabhupada used to give the example, it may not be a very palatable example these days, but he used to give the example that suppose you invest in the stock market, and during the day your stock goes way up, and during the midday trading you're a millionaire, you're a billionaire. But then at the end of the day the stock crashes and you lose everything. Now, is that a great achievement that at midday you were a millionaire or billionaire, but when the trading closed at the end of the day you had nothing? Is that something to be proud of? So we may work to acquire some wealth, prestige, power, position, influence, but what is the use? Because at the end of the day, we're going to lose it all. We're going to lose the body, and with the body, everything that was with it. So to invest so much time and energy in the body and in things related to the body is really misguided. It's really foolish, because it's just a matter of time. The body will be gone, and everything related to the body will be gone. The house, the spouse, the children, the car, the bank balance, everything will be finished. So we should really invest our time and energy in what is eternal, what will last. And that is the soul and the relationship of the individual soul with the Supreme Soul. And that is the purpose of Vedic civilization. That is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, to help people realize their eternal identities as spirit souls who are eternal servants of the Supreme Soul, or Krishna. And, as mentioned, in Kali Yuga, in the present age, the process by which we realize our eternal identities as spiritual beings who have eternal relationships with the Supreme Being is chanting. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, Kalona, Stevana, Stevana, Steva, Tiranyata. And the two processes of chanting, as mentioned, are Japa and Kirtan. Kirtan can be experienced in a very profound way by singing, playing instruments, dancing. Srila Jiva Goswami in Sri Bhakti Sandarbha says that Kirtan has an exceptionally powerful influence to awaken spiritual sentiment. So Kirtan is very important. In some places, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that Lord Chaitanya and his associates would perform Kirtan for 3 hours every evening. And Srila Prabhupada has recommended that devotees in ISKCON should perform Kirtan every evening for 3 hours. And Japa is also important, very important. The basic principle of Vaidhi Bhakti, or regulative devotional service, is, as stated in Shastra, to always remember Krishna and never forget him. That is the basic principle. In fact, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in response to the question, what should be the activity of a person who is about to die? King Parikshit had been cursed to die in 7 days. He could have counteracted the curse. He was a Mahabhagavata, great devotee. But he took the curse as the arrangement of Krishna, as the mercy of the Lord, to bring him back home, back to Godhead sooner. So he chose not to counteract the curse, but he accepted the curse as Krishna's mercy. And he went to the banks of the Ganges to inquire about the purpose of life. What is the duty of a person who is about to die? And in reply, Shukadeva Goswami answered that to be fearless at the time of death, one should always hear about and glorify and remember the soul of souls, Sri Krishna. Now, someone might think, well, he had 7 days to live. That was good for him. But what about us? But do we know how long we have to live? He knew he had 7 days. We don't know that we have 7 minutes. We don't know. So it is the duty of everyone who wants to be fearless in the hard struggle for existence to hear about and glorify and remember Lord Krishna. And that is the basic principle of Vaidhi Bhakti. to always remember Krishna and never forget him. But practically, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport to that verse, always remember Krishna, never forget him, that such remembrance is possible only if one chants the holy name of Krishna. And in particular, if one chants a prescribed number of rounds every day. When we chant Japa, we do so on these beads, Japa Mala. If anyone has been to Vrindavan, how many of you have been to Vrindavan? Some have and some haven't. Anyway, if you go to Vrindavan, you'll see all devotees, they have their Japa Mala, and they're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Actually, I'm sort of friends with one scholar at the University of California in Santa Barbara, and she became very interested in Gaudiya Vaishnavism and Krishna consciousness, and she took up a project on Vrindavan, a scholarly project on Vrindavan. And up until she went there, I mean, she really liked the devotees and she liked Krishna consciousness, but still, as a scholar, she was thinking, we might be different, from the original Vaishnavas in India. So she went to Vrindavan, and she saw that in all the temples in Vrindavan, they do the same thing that we do. They have kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna. And all the residents of Vrindavan, they also chant Japa, like we do. They have their Japa Mala, and they chant Hare Krishna. But of course, the facility that we've provided for pilgrims in Vrindavan is better than other places. We have our Krishna Balaram guest house, and we also have our MVT guest house. She stayed in the MVT guest house and was very impressed. But still she had this idea, well, let's see what's out there. What else is out there? And she had to, for her research, for her scholarship. So she went to the Radhavallabh temple, and she wanted to meet the head priest, Pujari, Mahant. And, he met her. He was sort of polite, but in the end, basically, he felt that she was unqualified to understand these topics. She was unfit to understand these topics. And afterwards he said, anyway, we don't need these people. We have ISKCON. And she really, she's almost a devotee now. So, yes, we have kirtan in the temple, and we do our personal japa. But, again, there's the question of the quality. And again, Jiva Goswami in his Sandarbhas has advised us that we should avoid certain offenses, 10 offenses against the holy name when we chant, and the 10 offenses are mentioned in the Padma Purana. But the main one is called pramadaha, which means inattention. We chant, but our mind wanders. The control of the mind is the central point in the practice of yoga, any kind of yoga, Ashtanga yoga also. The mind is the central point, and that applies to Krishna consciousness as well. In the Bhagavad Gita says, Krishna says, Maya Shakta Manaha Partha Yoga Yunjan Madashraya. That one should practice yoga with mind attached to Krishna. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindaya. That is Krishna consciousness, to absorb the mind in Krishna. So, we have to practice. Also in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says to Krishna that the mind is very restless and turbulent. It seems to me more difficult to control the mind as it is to control the wind. Nobody can control the wind. So many hurricanes are coming, 100-mile-per-hour winds. Nobody can control it. So the mind is like that. But Krishna says that it is possible by practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena, by practice. So we have to practice. This japa is a practice. Kirtan also, the mind should be fixed on the holy name. And there are techniques. Of course, the basic principle is given by Krishna in the Gita, that whenever and wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady nature, you should bring it back to the self. So that's the basic principle. That if we're chanting and our mind wanders, we should bring the mind back to the sound of the mantra. But there's a whole theology to the holy name. There's a whole system that our acharyas have developed, how to chant the holy name and fix the mind on the holy name when we chant. The practice involves the body, because the body affects the mind. We all know the mind affects the body, and the body affects the mind. So how to position the body in the best way when we chant, how to control the mind. It requires practice, but there are techniques that one can learn that will help one. And ultimately, how to chant from the heart. All the techniques are meant to be practiced, but ultimately, we want to chant from the heart. I gave the example at the recent retreats in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Georgia, that there was once a very gifted pianist, a young man, a very gifted pianist, and he was sent to a very rigorous music school, and as part of his graduation, he had to perform a piece, and he chose a Rachmaninoff piano concerto, which is like extremely difficult to play. Hardly anyone would dare to play it in a public performance. But he chose it, and he practiced, and he practiced, and he practices. Technically a very difficult piece. But his goal was to master the technique of playing the piece on the piano, so that when he came to perform it, he wouldn't even have to think about the keys on the piano, but he could put his heart into the performance. So that's our real goal. We learn, how to sit properly, back erect, and how to... No, it's a technical science, but how to keep the mind fixed, or how to become conscious when the mind wanders and bring the mind back, but more to purify the mind so it's more peaceful and tends to stay with the holy name. But then to chant with the heart. And that's the real quality that we want. So, as our announcer mentioned, there will be a Japa weekend, October 17th to 19th, something like that, at some place in Dallas. There are periodic retreats. Japa weekend means you go during the day and participate. There's it'll begin Friday evening, then say Saturday, say from about 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., something like that. And the organizers provide lunch and dinner. And then same on Sunday, except it might end a little earlier on Sunday at 4. So you have time to come to the temple. And then there are the retreats. The retreats are wonderful. In the retreat, you go away somewhere. Like we went to the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, and you stay for 5 days. And no cell phones, no computers, no business, nothing except Krishna, the holy name. So these workshops or weekends and retreats have really helped devotees a lot. They've helped me personally, so I do recommend them. But even otherwise, you can chant at home, chant in the temple. It's very effective to chant in front of Tulsi. I don't know how many of you have Tulsi plants, but it's very beneficial to chant in front of Tulsi. The Namacharya, Haridas Thakur, he would always chant in front of Tulsi. So these are things you can do at home. You can do anywhere, actually. But by hearing, even the Shastra says it's good to hear about the holy name. Because hearing about the holy name, hearing about our actual identity, hearing about our relationship with the holy name, with Krishna, all these things serve both to purify our hearts and also strengthen our determination. And then we can make real steady progress, strong progress. And with all the crises in the world, the illusion of security in the material world it was always an illusion, but it's easier to see through the illusion now. So that's also God's mercy. We shouldn't be like the people on the Titanic, the great ship. It was advertised that it could never sink. Great ship. And on its maiden voyage, all these like multi-millionaires, the elite of the world, they were on the ship. And it hit an iceberg and opened a hole and it sank. And almost everyone on board went down, were drowned. But they were up to the end. They were dancing, listening to music, dancing, illusion. Of course, we also want to sing and dance when we go down, but that's a different song and a different dance. But they were in complete illusion. They were completely unprepared for the reality. So we shouldn't be caught by surprise. We should know from the very beginning that death is coming, as sure as death, and we should prepare for it by hearing about Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, and learning to remember Krishna at every moment, so that at the time of death, we will also remember him. And yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, whatever you remember at the time of death will determine your next life. So if you think of material things, you'll come back to the material world and suffer again. Janma mritu jara vyadi, birth, death, old age and disease, that repetition, samsara chakra. But if you remember Krishna at the time of death, then you go to Krishna. And you're liberated from the cycle of birth and death. You enjoy your real life, which is eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. And that's our goal, and it can be achieved simply by chanting Hare Krishna. One of the first books that Srila Prabhupada wrote was called Easy Journey to Other Planets. He actually published it in India before he came to America. But when he came to the United States, he printed it again. We had our own press, ISKCON Press in Boston, and Srila Prabhupada instructed the artists to paint a picture for the cover of the book of a devotee with shaved head and sika flying through the sky. This book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, is how by practice of yoga one can transfer oneself to other planets. But the only way to get out of the material universe to the spiritual kingdom of God is by bhakti yoga. By other yogas, Ashtanga yoga, one can travel to other planets within the universe. But even in the other planets, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, Punarjanma Avartino, even from the highest planet of Brahma down to the lowest, all are places of misery, where the repetition of birth and death take place. But if one goes to the supreme abode of Krishna, no more birth and death. So the cover, this was Prabhupada's instructions, and the cover depicted the earth, and then the sky with so many stars and planets, Saturn and Jupiter and the galaxies in the background, and then at the top was the supreme planet of Krishna, Krishna Loka. And the devotee was like flying through the sky, heading to Krishna Loka with his Japa mala. He was being propelled to Krishna Loka by his Japa mala. And that's how Prabhupada wanted it depicted. And then later, when the devotees showed Prabhupada the picture, he said, yes, the beads, by the beads. So that's our ticket back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So, are there any questions or comments? It's 7:30. I'm not sure what the schedule is, but it seems like a good figure for something. Huh? Tulsi. Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu?
Why is it recommended that we chant a prescribed number of chanting? Because sometimes we don't have time to do this or that, and we think maybe we don't have the time. But what is the benefit of prescribed number of rounds?
Very good question. Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu asked, what is the necessity to chant a prescribed number of rounds? Well, in any practice, like exercise, they recommend you start with a certain number of practices, and then you can gradually increase, and that way you build up your strength. So even if one can't come immediately to the standard of 16 rounds, you can start with 4 rounds, and then do 4 rounds every day, and gradually build up his spiritual strength or her spiritual strength, and then 8 rounds. But another explanation is that the holy name of Krishna is Krishna. Chanting the holy name of Krishna really means developing a relationship with Krishna. And we want to show Krishna that we're serious about our relationship with him. At the Japa retreat in Georgia, His Holiness Sachinandan Swami gave the example that suppose you meet someone and the person is very friendly and just spends a lot of time with you and really shows interest in you and care for you. You think, wow, this person really wants to be friends with me. And then the next time you see the person just walks right by you. It's as if he never saw you. It's as if you didn't exist. It's like it completely gives you the cold shoulder. And then you think, whoa, what's going on here? It's like that 2 or 3 times. And then again he greets you and he's like, oh, it's like you're his best friend on earth. And so it gets confusing, like you keep getting these mixed messages, does this person want to have a relationship with me or not? So it's like that with the chanting. Okay, one day we chant not 16, we chant 20. We chant 25, we chant 32. So Krishna thinks, wow, this person really wants to have a relationship with me. And then the person sets aside the bead bag and Krishna's saying, what's going on here? I thought this person wanted to have a relationship with me. Now the person's completely ignoring me. So we should be consistent in our relationship with Krishna. Yes?
Scientific explanation is if you repeat any thing for 3 weeks in a row, it becomes a habit. To make the mind concentrate on the God alone, you have to keep on having that continuously. 8 mala, 6 mala, 10 malas, but they have to be every day. It becomes a habit of your heart, of your mind, to concentrate and not wander around.
Our devotee here says that there's a scientific explanation that anything you do for 3 weeks becomes a habit. So if consistently for 3 weeks you chant 4 rounds or 8 rounds or whatever, number 6 or 10, it will become a habit. Very good. Yes.
Water, fire, air, intelligence, mind, intelligence, and all people. So you said that the mind is the center for activity, right?
The mind is the center of the senses.
My question is, which one actually intelligence in the back? But sometimes the body, the body, some the body have intelligence, and some the body, they can have names, but sometimes they block. So, who are the center over there? The mind or the intelligence? Or the intelligence is in the back, right?
Yes.
So which one is stronger? The mind or the intelligence? Excuse me. All right.
Very good question. What is your name? Gokulananda. Gokulananda Prabhu says there are 8 material elements: earth, water, air, fire, space, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the intelligence is higher than the mind. But sometimes it seems that the mind carries a person away from the intelligence. So which is stronger, the mind or the intelligence? Well, again, the Bhagavad Gita says one should control the lower self with the higher self. One should control the mind with the intelligence. When we say wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady nature, one should bring it back to the self. It's the intelligence that brings the mind back. Now, which is stronger? There's a competition. But Srila Prabhupada said that if you use your intelligence, it will become stronger. It's just like any muscle. If you use it, if you exercise it, it will become stronger. So we have to exercise the mind, the intelligence, to control the mind. And that's the practice of attentive japa. You're using the intelligence to control the mind. The Upanishads give the example of a chariot or a carriage, that there's the 5 horses, which are the 5 senses. They're pulling the chariot, which is the body. And then there's the driving instrument, which is the mind. The mind is supposed to control the senses. And then there's the driver. He's supposed to control the driving instrument, say the reins. If the driver lets go of the reins, then the horses will run wild. They can carry the carriage into the ditch. So the driver is the intelligence. So the driver should control the mind, the driving instrument. The driving instrument controls the horses, which are the senses. And the passenger tells the driver where he wants to go. And the passenger is the spirit soul. So we, the spirit soul, we decide, I want to go to Krishna. So then the intelligence takes control of the mind, which takes control of the senses, and the whole system is mobilized to go to Krishna. So that's, yes, we must control the mind with the intelligence. Yes, and then next.
Maharaj, is it equally potent to chant in front of a tulsi plant and a picture of the tulsi plant? Because some of us may not be fortunate enough to be able to grow a tulsi plant in our home.
He asks, is it feasible to chant in front of a picture of Tulsi if you're not fortunate enough to have a Tulsi plant? It is. I mean, something's better than nothing, but still, Tulsi plant is better than a picture. But yeah, a picture is something. How does Tulsi Maharani help in our chanting? Well, Tulsi is a pure devotee, and by the association of a pure devotee, our consciousness is elevated. And she's a pure devotee who's more easily accessible. All right. It's also recommended to chant in front of the deities. It's also beneficial. It's recommended to chant in a holy place, like Vrindavan or Mayapur, Jagannath Puri. They all help, but Tulsi is easily accessible, easily approachable. So even if one has no means to worship the deity, no means to go to the temple, no means to go to the holy dham, but one can have a Tulsi and chant in front of Tulsi and achieve perfection. All right, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.